Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. I'm Nettie Curtis from the St. Joseph Baptist Church of Whistler, where the Reverend LaVon Manzi is my pastor, and I serve as superintendent and one of the adult teachers. But before we go into the lesson, I just want to take a moment to thank all of you who have listened and have responded. You have encouraged me so, and it has really uplifted me. I've listened and heard from people as far away as my niece in Thailand and as close to people on the next street. And it has really uplifted my soul. So thank you. And if I have not responded properly, just know I'm a woman of a particular age, and just forgive me and keep listening. Now today's lesson, this week's lesson rather, comes from the book of Esther. There are only two books in the Bible that have women names. That's Esther and Ruth. So Esther comes to mind because she is chosen queen. When the book of Esther opens, it's the middle of a festival. And the king is unhappy with his present queen, and she's deposed, and he has a beauty contest and sends for all of the virgins, and one of whom is Esther, who proves to be the prettiest one. So Esther is chosen to be the queen. Esther was raised by her cousin Mordecai because her parents were no longer alive, and Mordecai protected her and looked after her. At some point, a disturbance came up, and some of the eunuchs decided that they were going to overthrow the king and kill him. So Mordecai was able to thwart this plan, and he and Esther got together and told the king about it. So this made the king think well of Mordecai. But as we look at today's lesson, so the king and Haman came to the banquet with Esther the queen. Now that's important because the king and Haman came in together. Haman was second in command. This was the first of several festivals, several banquets. We sometimes think we just started having banquets, but this lesson lets us know that we've had banquets and beauty contests from the beginning. So Esther was given the opportunity to speak before the king. And in the background, we know that Esther made plans before she went to speak to the king. She prayed and she fasted, and she had other people praying and fasting with her. So when she got into the banquet and she wants to speak to the king, and the king says, "What is thy petition, Queen Esther? And shall it be granted thee? And what is thy request? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom." Now, the king had no idea what Esther had in mind and what she was going to ask him. But Esther answered and said, "If I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request." Now, we're not sure that the king even knew that Esther was Jewish. So here the plot has been made that Haman was going to get rid of all of the Jews. He was going to have them killed. So Esther and Mordecai found this out and came up with this idea that Esther would go before the king. We're familiar with that verse that says, "If I perish, I perish. I'm going before the king." So Esther goes before the king, and she asks for two things. She asks for her own life and then the life of her people. And she goes on a little bit further and says, "For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondsmen and bondswomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage." She's saying, now, we're going to be killed. If we were just going to be sold into slavery, I wouldn't say anything. But we're going to be killed. And you agreed with it, but you didn't quite know you agreed with it. The king, then the king answered and said unto Esther the queen, "Who is he, and where is he that durst presume in his heart to do so?" So the king wants to know, well, now who came up with this plot to kill the Jews and to kill the queen? And Esther said, the adversary and enemy and is wicked Haman. Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. Now, Haman was a pompous fellow who was very arrogant. And he was mad at Mordecai because Mordecai wouldn't bow to him. Now, he was mad at one man, but he was going to destroy a whole family of people. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden, and Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen, for he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. The king became very angry when he found out that Haman was plotting against the Jewish people. So the king got up and left the room. Haman then became afraid because he knew the king was not happy. So that when the king left the room, Haman got up and went over to see Esther. And during that time, they didn't sit at tables. They kind of were lying around. So when Haman went in to try to talk to Esther, he went over where she was and lay there. And while she was lying there, the king came back in, and he was mad. And he says, not only is he going to try to destroy the people, is he going to molest my wife as well? But we don't think that was Haman's idea. We think he was going to plead for his life. But that's not the way the king saw it. Meanwhile, Haman had some gallows built that he was going to hang Mordecai on. Tall gallows, 50 cubits high. He was going to make quite a spectacle. Lo and behold, the king says, let's get rid of Haman. Let's kill him. And one of the other men that were there, the chamberlain, said, "Oh, we already got the gallows. He's already built the high gallows, so let's hang him on there." So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. That was the king's wrath pacified. We do have to be careful how we treat people. St. Joseph used to sing a song that said, if you dig one ditch, you better dig two. The ditch you dig just might be for you. So we see the tables were turned here on Haman. He had planned to have Mordecai killed. Turns out he was the one who was killed. He was the executed scoundrel. So what do we learn from Esther? It is my belief that Esther was beautiful, but she didn't depend on her beauty. She prayed, she fasted, she made a plan, and she worked her plan. Now, the book of Esther is unique in that it does not mention the Lord's name. We don't hear the Lord's voice, but we see his works. So it lets us know that we have to act sometimes when we're in positions that we didn't plan, but we have to make sure that our actions reflect God. On the other hand, we don't want to scheme and plan against others because that's not God's way. He doesn't want us to try to progress by stepping on and hurting other people. So as we look at the book of Esther, we realize that sometimes God is directing our lives and we don't know that he's doing that, because the plan to get Esther in the kingdom started a long time ago. It wasn't Esther's plan, it was the Lord's plan. So sometimes things are put before us and we have to make a decision. How are we going to react to this? Are we going to react by doing the things that God would have us do? Or are we going to react selfishly? So the story of Esther lets us know that God is always vigilant, that he's always on our side, and that whatever situation comes upon us, God can take care of it. And not only that, God will take care of us. Yes, we're facing uncertain times, but God is still in charge. So I encourage you in the words of this songwriter, be not dismayed. Whatever betide, God will take care of you. Beneath his wings of love abide, God will take care of you. Through days of toil when heart doth fail, God will take care of you. When dangers fierce your path assail, God will take care of you. All you may need, he will provide. Nothing you ask will be denied. No matter what may be the test, lean, weary one, upon his breast. God will, oh yes, he will, take care of you. Thank you.